Welcome back to our session number 3. This is our third information session that is all about the event planning professional certificate that is part of the AUArts, which is the Alberta University of the Arts here in Alberta, Canada. If you're watching from around the world, welcome. This is for you too. We're so excited that we get to offer something that is so accessible to so many of you all around the world. Heidi, I'm so glad that you're here again to talk with me again. We're going to be talking about this third micro credential, which is all about engaging and managing event stakeholders. But before we dive in, do you want to introduce yourself? Let us know a little bit about your work, about how you've come to this idea of having micro credentials at AUArts, but then also why does it matter so much for you to be putting something so innovative and creative out into the marketplace for people that want to learn how to plan events?
Thank you, Lisa. Yes, my name is Heidi Brandley, and I'm the Manager of Entrepreneurship and Innovation here at AUArts. And innovation is a key component of what we're trying to achieve with our School of Continuing Education and Professional Development, and with the development of these micro credentials, because micro credentials are, they've kind of been emerging in the market over the last few years, and really are about focusing in on key core competencies for professional development, and focusing on micro credentials that are quick and short and focused on those skills that you want to develop your career.
And what's so cool about them being short and easy to access is that there is really no limit. So there are 5 micro credentials in this professional certificate, and creating them was such a joy, because we've talked about this a lot, but being able to marry a lot of my work over so many years of coaching and mentoring event planners and their teams and volunteers that are planning events and creatives that are planning events in a way that there is some structure and some meat to it, where through the Alberta University of the Arts, there is such a focus on gaining expertise and doing things with not just creativity and fun. And when we get into our creative side, a lot of times that's what it feels like, but that it also has that professional development. So can you tell us a little bit about when somebody enrolls for one of these 5 micro credentials, what do you think they're getting as a learner that they can apply to their work and their world to really move them forward and maybe get that promotion or take that job or put their hand up for something, in this case, event planning, that they might not have before?
Well, I think, when we were collaborating with you, Lisa, on developing these micro credentials, I think our real aim was to make it accessible for those who may or may not have any events background. And so the skills are very focused in on your expertise and what you brought to the micro credentials in terms of the skills that they need, but recognizing that as working professionals, you may be bringing in a variety of transferable skills, as well as the event specific skills that you want to gain from this micro credential. I think that the micro credentials are really focused on what is trending in the industry right now based on the knowledge that you brought. And so really making sure that it's timely and relevant and is really going to be meaningful for anyone looking to develop in this area.
And this particular micro credential is all about, I call it about people, because this one is really about who is surrounding you. And even if you are out there and you are planning your own events and you're like, I am a one-person show, one-man band, I am putting all of this together myself, and there are maybe a couple of family members or maybe some team members. If you are in a nonprofit, it often lands on somebody's shoulders, but you kind of rally people around you. The idea around this particular micro credential is really getting clear on who's involved, because there's probably way more people involved than you think. What are their roles? Why does that matter? And how do you start working together in a way that leads you forward to the event, so you are all feeling fresh and ready to go, and you've got the support that you need as you move forward? So in this one, so engaging and managing event stakeholders, this one, if you enroll in this one, the description on the website, which will give you all of these details in the description below. But this is just a really quick overview. So you'll learn how to engage stakeholders, establish clear agreements, and foster a strong event planning culture for seamless collaboration. And in each one of the micro-credentials, the idea of being innovative, again, there's a part of this, and I'm going to play just our introductory video in just a second that will share a little bit about what you'll learn through this course. But one of the things that I've learned as an entrepreneur, I've had my company, Candy Event Consulting, now since 2008. I put my stake in the ground and I said, I have something to offer. I've been planning and promoting events all my life. What has been really interesting as an entrepreneur and learning about this concept of a pirate ship versus a cruise ship. And I wanted to just touch on that, Heidi, because even in your department, when you're working with people that are innovative and creative and they're starting something new, do you notice that when people are kind of moving into their work where there's a little bit of that pirate shipness where it's a bit scrappy? They are finding resources from wherever they can find them. They are putting in brand new processes to move something forward. They're testing things. Maybe they're finding there's things they don't need. And so they're quick to throw some things overboard, hopefully not people in your case, but what is it about that pirate ship that you think creatives really are attracted to? Because I do believe there are a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs out there, even a lot of planners maybe that might not say it up front, but we kind of like that scrappy way of starting. Do you find that with people that are taking some of these other micro-credentials in a way that they're just trying something out?
Yeah, well, I think it's really an iterative process, right? So it involves that, trying something, scrapping it if it doesn't work, modifying it as you go. And I think that's really that entrepreneurial and innovative focus that we're wanting to achieve with these micro-credentials. And I think that events, it makes sense that when you're first getting into the space, you're going to try things out, you're going to realize that some things work better than others and modify as you go. And I think that's something that at AUArts we're very familiar with. The artistic and creative process is something that does require a lot of trying things out and seeing what works and what doesn't, and very hands-on. So I think that these micro-credentials really provide that opportunity to explore that part of the process, the part of the journey, until you kind of move into more the cruise ship, I imagine.
Well, and the cruise ship part of this is that the cruise ship essentially is where we get to either a size, or we have certain goals, or we have things that we want to accomplish. And I think I said in the last session that events have a deadline. And so there is something about putting a deadline on something that really starts to encourage us. I'll say that in a good way, not to panic, but encourage us to find ways to structure things, to find people to support us, to find maybe some experts or professionals that can feed into the work that we're doing. And the cruise ship doesn't mean that we aren't having fun anymore, but the cruise ship does mean that there is that opportunity to maybe not try so hard once we put a system in place, or we've brought somebody on that understands budgets, for example. I know a lot of creatives sometimes need a little bit of help with that. The cruise ship side of our planning gives us that, I think, just a framework that we can start adding some contracts. We're going to be talking about contracts in this one. How do we make agreements with people that are working with us? How do we set more overarching goals that everybody understands, that we're clear? I talk a little bit about Brene Brown's quote, "Clarity is kind." And as we're working with people, how do we get really clear about what a goal is, what is important in this particular event, and those little tasks that we feel like, oh, it's just 5 minutes, or it's just a couple of things. How do we get really clear on those so that our cruise ship is running well, and that we don't hit any icebergs, we don't, lose anybody in the process? So I want to play, if I could, Heidi, maybe we'll just jump right in. I'm going to play our video for Micro Credential 3 right now. So you want to listen in? Okay, awesome. So if you wouldn't mind, yeah, thanks. Thanks. I am so excited that we're getting to what I think is the most important micro-credential of them all. It is all about people, the who in your events, yourself included. And now in micro-credential number 3, we're talking about the people. So even if you are somebody that is out there and you're planning events on your own, this is something that you're putting together with your family or your friends, maybe your team at work or your community members, and you're all just putting all hands on deck. We're all part of the brainstorming. We're putting this event together, and there isn't a whole lot of thought to all the people that you could have involved in your event to not just make things easier, but just to bring in new perspectives, to give you an opportunity to take a little bit of a rest, maybe to have another way of planning that really fantastic engagement that you have at your event. When we do things ourselves, it's great because we learn a lot of things. But what we want to learn in this micro-credential is that you probably have many people in your circle that can feed into the success of your event. And we want to really dig into that, understand where would they fit, how do you care for them, how do you give them a really great sense and clarity around what their role is. So I'm going to just share with you what it is you're going to be learning in this micro-credential, and then we're going to dive in. So in section number 1, we're talking about making core connections that are going to make a great difference in your planning process. And then we're going to talk about managing those relationships, because we might onboard people or have a volunteer committee, but it is really about creating those relationships over time. You'll be encouraged because you're going to see how your planning community, your planning circle is actually going to expand. And it doesn't mean that it has to be more work. It just means it's going to be more meaningful. Then in section number 2, we're going to be talking all about roles and responsibilities. Now, if you are somebody that is planning and promoting events for yourself, on your own, for the most part, you might be wearing a lot of hats. But what we want to talk about here is giving yourself an opportunity to really see what are those roles that need to be filled in your particular event. What are the responsibilities that are attached to those roles? And then we can learn how we can transition from doing everything ourselves to giving space for others to feed in. In this section, we're going to have a little bit of fun because I'm going to be talking about planning as a pirate. So this is your pirate planning stage where you might be feeling scrappy. There's a lot going on, a lot of movement. You're moving together as a team or just yourself and a couple of people to plan this event. We want to talk about that transition where we want to structure, be more intentional about how our event is coming together. And that's what I call the cruise ship structure. So we're going to have a little bit of fun with that. You probably heard it in the sense of a startup, but we're going to talk about it in the sense of an event plan. Then in micro-credential number 3, we are going to be talking about contracts and commitment. And we all may know of Brené Brown. Brené Brown talks about clarity is kind. And so when we understand what it is we're trying to do, what is the contract that we are, or agreement that we are building with those people that are working with us in our event, and then how are we communicating what needs to be done, and then calling for that commitment for it to be done. We're going to be talking about how that works with all of your stakeholders in your events. We are going to be talking about caring for your staff, your volunteers, your team, maybe your speakers or your entertainers, but any stakeholder that is part of your planning process, we need to back up. Sometimes our tendency to be all about the project, all about the spreadsheet, the deadlines, the getting things done. That's something that I really struggled with at the beginning, but we have to learn, how do we infuse a sense of care in everything that we do when we communicate? How are we making sure that they feel cared for in our communication? How are we making sure they feel cared for when we task them with something, or how we direct them or manage them in the course of our planning? it gives us an opportunity to really create this really fantastic marriage between many ideas, lots of things going on, and everyone feels like they have a voice. They're all contributing to the connections that are being made. So in that video, it really gives us a lot of information, but a taste on what it is you'll be getting if you enroll for this micro-credential number 3. Heidi, when we're talking about all 5 of these micro-credentials, every one of them talks about the people that are involved in planning. So when we're talking about innovation, and we've been talking a little more in this information session about what it means to be innovative, for us to be available to some of those new ideas. What do you find sometimes when you're building teams, or you've seen people trying to build teams, where there can be some friction maybe when there is some innovative ideas or things around the table that might be new ideas or new ways of doing things?
You know, it starts with setting the culture that it's a culture of innovation, and that you're okay to bring forward new ideas and bring forward ideas in order to try them out and see what works. So I think that it starts with a mindset of innovation, and building a team around, you know, diverse set of skills and diverse perspectives, so that you can bring those new ideas and those innovative approaches in, I think are really important.
When we're talking about the innovation and the professional development area that you work with, you and your team work with, I want to really highlight too that the Alberta University of the Arts has been around a long time. So as you're looking at these micro-credentials, know that you're going to have the weight of a university. And I think, Heidi, you were saying that next year is going to be 100 years.
Yes,
Yeah, 100 years.
2026.
For the Alberta University of the Arts, AUArts, and it used to be ACAD. So many of you probably watching, if you are in Alberta or in Canada, you probably know it as being one of the most established arts now universities. So to be able to take a course that marries both that creative, artistic, I call myself an artisan planner way of planning, with that weight of and so much strength in what the university has been doing all these years. Can you tell us a little bit about why micro-credentials at AUArts?
You know, as we're heading into our 100th year, we're looking at how we can innovate and be current with what's going on in our current marketplace, and AUArts very much wants to be part of the future growth, and what the learners are demanding from institutions today versus, you know, 100 years ago, and how we can continue to innovate and provide products and learning products that are meaningful and relevant in today's fast-paced, rapidly changing world.
So the micro-credentials, the idea of them being easy to access, like we were saying earlier, but also in a way that is you can build on them. And one of the really cool things about these 5 micro-credentials is that you can start anywhere. So depending on what your job is, where your day-to-day work is in event planning, maybe you're brand new to event planning and you're not sure really where to start. There are so many ways that you can get that information. You can take a course. This particular micro-credential is one that you could take first if you wanted to. If you are working a lot with partnerships as a business owner, or maybe you're an entrepreneur and you need to get connected, maybe you're somebody building a volunteer team. As a coach and a consultant, a lot of the work I do is actually helping to either onboard a new team, or help you build an events team, or give you maybe some ideas on retaining great talent, great people that can support you. So you could start at this micro-credential and get so much from it. I'm going to do a couple of polls, and I'm going to read a couple of questions. So I will launch these in just a second. How would you describe your background or current focus? Are you an artist or a creative entrepreneur, like I call myself. Maybe you're a community builder or a change maker. There's a couple of those in our session today. You're an organizer of cultural or social events, or maybe you're aspiring or a practicing event planner looking to deepen your skills. Everyone is welcome here. So what I would love in our second poll, what I'd love to highlight is our 5 micro-credentials. So again, you could start at any one of these, but it matters where you are at today. So tell me which one you feel would be most relevant to you. And I will read these off, just even if you're watching after our session today, I would love for you to just put some thought to where you might want to start. So the first one would be opportunities in event planning. This is where you would discover your path to planning events and explore the impact you can make through the events you plan. The second one is strategic event planning, where we can lean into practical tools needed to create meaningful event experiences while monitoring the progress and mitigating potential challenges. The third one would be engaging and managing stakeholders, the one we're talking about today. Exploring communication strategies, partner agreements, and leadership approaches that foster a positive event planning culture. We've also got, which we're going to be talking about next week, effective communication in events. And this is about learning the essential skills for crafting clear, inclusive messaging to engage diverse audiences when you're planning your event. And the last one is turning your plans into action. It's when the lights go down and the people are coming in and you have done all the planning you can possibly do. And now your plan is actually in motion. You've brought it to life. So in this last 5th micro-credential, it is about anticipating those pressure points, optimizing your event space, and bringing your event plans to life with confidence. And one thing that I talk about so often is that as plan, we need to really find that clarity in our plan, which each one of these micro-credentials will do. We want to get connected as we plan, because as we're this micro-credential, the people matter so much and we want to find that confidence that as we're moving forward in our plan, that we actually hit the ground in our event venue on the event day, feeling really confident that we have done everything we can to give the best guest experience, but also that our team is cared for and that we're ready to go. So any last thoughts, Heidi, as we just wrap up our conversation for today and all of this managing, engaging, and stakeholder last thoughts?
Well, I think that this is a micro-credential that really stands out to me because of its focus on building community and building those partnerships. And I think that's so essential. And I think that's something that we at AUArts also recognize the value of significantly. And I just really want to encourage everyone that this is a great place to start if you're dabbling in events, or if you're already a seasoned event planner looking for new and innovative ways to approach your craft. This is a great place to start.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Thanks, Heidi, for being with me again. What a joy to be creating these with you and with the learning development team. And I forgot to mention that in each one of these micro-credentials, you will be hearing from some amazing event-loving, event-focused experts that are bringing their own expertise, especially in this one. We're talking a lot about event relationships. We're talking a lot about building teams. You'll want to make sure to register for this one because it'll help you in anything you're doing, in any work that you're doing. This is going to be valuable for you. See you next time on our next information session next week. We'll see you again.